Return by the same route over the bridge again and you reach Killiecrankie, the site of a famous battle in 1689. William of Orange had arrived in England the previous year to overthrow James VII, the last Stuart king, and his own father-in-law, who'd fled to France. John Graham of Claverhouse, 1st Viscount Dundee, took up the challenge and raised an army from the Highland clans. Indeed, this was Rob Roy MacGregors' first taste of battle as a youth. Claverhouse, affectionately known as Bonnie Dundee, gathered his forces at Blair Castle, whilst General Mackay's awaited at Dunkeld. They met at the pass of Killiecrankie, where the wild Highland charge caused complete mayhem in the ranks of the government troops, who lost over 2,000 men to the Highlanders' 900 casualties. However, a stray shot killed Dundee as he rode forward, urging his men on. His body was buried that night at a mournful ceremony in the little church of Blair. The Visitor Centre has an excellent exhibition of the battle. The centre also features natural history and a ranger service. This woodland gorge, much admired by Queen Victoria, is designated as a site of special scientific interest, as a fine example of oak and mixed deciduous woodland. In the visitor centre during the nesting season, a remote camera at a nest nearby provides some very interesting and privileged views of the secrets of a family home of a quite different kind. At the north end of the pass, near the present-day visitor centre, is the famous Soldier's Leap, where Donald MacBain, one of Mackay's troopers, jumped 18 feet across the raging waters of the River Garry to escape the claymores of Bonnie Dundee's Highlanders. He returned a few years later to help General Wade build the Great Road North. In the centre of this estate village are the impressive gates to Blair Castle, which has been home to over 19 generations of Stuarts and Murrays, who made their home here more than 7 centuries ago. The castle is strategically positioned as gatekeeper to the Highlands and the route north. It was the first private house to be open to the public, and indeed today welcomes more visitors than any other in Scotland. During the 45 rebellion the family were split, with the first Duke and his second son on the government side, and the eldest and younger brothers on the prince's side. The youngest of 3 brothers, Lord George Murray, even laid siege to Blair en route to Culloden. He subsequently died in exile in Holland, while his elder brother William died imprisoned in the Tower of London. However, James, the middle brother, became the second Duke and had 2 daughters. One eloped to France with an elderly admirer and died there. The other, named Charlotte, in order to keep the title in the family, married the son of Lord George, who became the 3rd Duke. Indeed, the title remains to this day with descendants of Lord George. The current Duke, John, the 11th Duke, and his son Bruce, the Marquis of Tullibardine, live in South Africa, and are cousins of Ian, the 10th Duke, who died in 1996, having put the castle and the surrounding estate into a charitable trust only a year earlier. The 11th Duke is also Colonel of the Atholl Highlanders, the only private army in Europe. Raised in 1778 to fight in the American War of Independence, which they never did, they were reformed in 1839 and granted colours 5 years later by Queen Victoria, whilst she was staying at the castle for a season. Blair Castle has changed over the years from a draughty medieval castle to a stately Georgian mansion to the current comfortable Victorian Scottish baronial castle, remodelled by David Bryce in 1870. The ballroom, added in 1876, where a portrait by Raeburn of Neil Gow, the celebrated local fiddler, is housed, still hosts grand Highland balls. Gow predated this room and was the fiddler to John the 2nd Duke, and subsequently to the 3rd and 4th Dukes. With over 25 rooms to view and an excellent shop and restaurant, plus the gardens and estate, with rangers on hand to advise on walks and other activities, with pony trekking on the estate, an attractive caravan park, the annual Atholl gathering in May, and the international horse trials in August, there is much to do and see at this magnificent seat of the Dukes of Atholl. Overlooking gardens to the east of Blair Castle stands a pillar of rough grey stone on a wooded hillock. Few know of its grim past, for the hill is called the Hangman's Hill, and the pillar is called the Hangman's Tower. The Earls of Atholl enjoyed the rights of pit and gallows, which allowed them to execute or imprison any wrongdoers under their jurisdiction. A couple of miles north on the old A9 and you reach the Falls of Bruar and the woodland surrounding the Bruar Gorge, which is a living memorial to Robert Burns, who visited in the September of 1787 and subsequently wrote a poem in which he imagined he was the Bruar water and pleaded with the Duke of Atholl to plant its banks with trees. Indeed, in 1796, the Duke of Atholl planted European larch and Scots pine, some of which can still be seen to this day. Other famous visitors include William Wordsworth, the artist William Turner, and of course Queen Victoria. Indeed, for more than 200 years, the Falls of Bruar has been a place of pilgrimage. And now there's an even greater reason to visit this wonderful wild landscape, namely the House of Bruar, which opened in 1993 and is Scotland's most prestigious country store. A large upmarket shopping emporium is built, furnished and decorated in the style of a Scottish Victorian shooting lodge. With paintings especially commissioned by the renowned wildlife artist Roger MacPhail adorning the walls, period furniture throughout, and a comfortable sofa beside an open fire blazing in the hearth, this is a store like no other. Often referred to as the Harrods of the North, the House of Bruar makes a great effort to represent the very best from Scotland. It is a wonder to behold and a shopping experience not to be missed, situated as it is amongst the beautiful scenery of Highland Perthshire. The Clan Donogh Society was founded in 1893 and is to be found at the Clan Centre and Gift Shop at Bruar. The site was purchased in 1967 and opened 2 years later as the first purpose-built clan centre in Scotland. It represents the Robertson clan, with numerous septs like Duncan, Reid and MacRobert, and so on. The Robertsons of Struan are one of the oldest families in Scotland. Duncan the Stout led the clan at Bannockburn, and in 1437 his great-grandson, Robert, captured one of the murderers of King James I, whose demise we investigate in the adjoining travel tape Perth and Kinross title. His reward was the family lands and barony of nearby Struan. Another famous laird was Alexander, the poet chief, who lived at Mount Alexander near Killiecrankie, and whose former estate we pass through as we travel further west into the wilderness moor of Rannoch later on this journey. The shop sells a wide range of clan memorabilia for all Scottish clans, and indeed membership of the clan society is open to all.